Now we have our state convener, Joanne Miller, will introduce our guest speaker for tonight.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I'm so excited about this presentation today, and I'm especially excited about our speaker that I'm honored to introduce. Michelle Dunlap, PhD, earned a Bachelor's of Science with honors in psychology from Wayne State University, a master's in social psychology with an emphasis on consumer behavior, and a PhD in social psychology with an emphasis on prejudice, racism, and intergroup relations from the University of Florida. She has taught at Connecticut College in the Human Development Department since 1994. She is author or co-editor of more than 40 journal articles, books, chapters, and essays on the topics of cultural competency and family and community engagement, service learning, multicultural issues and diversity, and racial identity and adolescent development. Her newly released book is Retail Racism, Shopping While Black and Brown in America. And we can all kind of relate to that. This was published by Rowman and Littlefield. This latest book offers the history and voices of Black and Brown people and their experiences of monitoring inequity and trauma in the consumer marketplace, as well as the many ways that we resist and fight back. She has traveled extensively and has presented her work nationally and internationally. Among her travels has been Germany, France, Finland, Russia, Mexico, Canada, South America, and throughout the United States and the Caribbean. She has won local, state, and national awards from her community engagement work and has consulted for universities, schools, social service and community agencies, and businesses. Also, extremely rewarding for her has been raising her children, serving as an auntie to a host of children, and engaging in ministry work. I am so proud and honored to introduce to you a dynamic woman of faith, a woman who is truly woke, a woman who I call a friend, Dr. Michelle Dunlap.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Sister Joanne, for that very, very nice and very warm introduction. And thank you to Wanda Short and to Kia Beard and to all of the officers and all of the members of the NCNW and all of the guests today. I haven't dared to look at the participant list for tonight because I'm afraid that it would make me nervous. So just hello to everybody. And I'm just so honored to be here tonight. So tonight I want to just talk a little bit and then have some time for us to kind of have some discussions about what it means to be a Black woman in this society, which is a society that can be very inequitable for us. While we are also faced with so many young people who are struggling with issues and don't have maybe all of the role modeling that they need, after we have seen so many things impact our society that have left our children struggling, many of our children struggling with age-old issues such as poverty, lack of education, lack of health care, just so many issues. We could go on and on. The preschool to prison pipeline, things like that. So I kind of want to talk a bit about how Black women, we're sort of thrust into burning buildings on our jobs, in our families, in our communities. And while we're trying to survive these burning buildings, we're also trying to find ways to thrive and to help our own families and to help our communities thrive. So this can be very, very challenging because the inequities in society have thrust us into these burning buildings. And they talk about how women face a glass ceiling and how they end up on this cliff because of the glass ceiling and they fall off of the cliff and things like that. Well, if that's what women, and we're talking predominantly about white middle class women, if that's what they're experiencing, well, on top of that, Black women, we're also experiencing these burning buildings. Okay, and being thrust into those burning buildings and trying to save what's in the buildings and trying to save ourselves at the same time as well. And oftentimes we're thrust into these buildings after they've started burning. If on our jobs and if in the community, if people would trust Black women more and bring us to the table and ask us to help problem solve before things blow up into these bigger problems, maybe we would be able to prevent some of these bigger issues. Maybe we could help organizations and institutions and communities and families to do better before things get to the point where the building is burning down. The building is burning down. Okay, now let's bring in a Black woman, because we know Black women will work really, really hard. Black women are very, very strong, or supposedly, and we will work very, very hard, and we will do everything we can. We will either save the building or kill ourselves trying. And everybody knows this. So after they've tried everyone else and everything has failed and now the building is burning, we're going to call the Black woman. And if things do not work out, we can say, see, we told you those Black women can't, they don't know how to run an organization, or they don't know how to fix things or whatever. So then it's easy to blame us when you've waited until the building is burning to bring us into it. So many people have faced this. Many Black women have faced this, like I said, in many different ways. So while we're trying to do this, all of this maneuvering on our jobs, in our families, in our communities, how do we then also mentor young people who are in such need right now for mentors? And with the COVID devastation that has impacted our community, there's going to be even a greater need for mentors, because the COVID devastation has disproportionately impacted the Black community. So there's going to be more children who are in need of extra support, and that grandmother or that grandfather who may have been helping to raise them maybe is now part of that dreadful number that has taken so many people away, and again, disproportionately Black and brown people. So I'm trying to just tie these different concepts together, all of the pressure that Black women are under and all the things that we get called to do. And yet we're always still trying to help people. We're always still trying to be a help and a mentor and a role model to someone else. So I want to begin by giving you an example of a situation that I recently faced. And I was really perplexed as to what to do. And I prayed and I prayed and I prayed about it. And God gave me a word. And I want to just share just a little concept with you that I have been finding helpful when I can remember to use it. So I had a situation where I was called to mentor a young adult who's going through extraordinary circumstances. It's just unbelievable, this young woman and the things that she is experiencing, because she's been in a burning building since she was a child. Okay. Her family experienced certain devastations that left her kind of out there on a limb, and, you know, with other people trying to fill in and trying to help. And then that impacted her developmentally. And then when she began to become mature and have a family and so forth, you know, just so many things were coming at her, and through no fault of her own. You know, we also have systems and entities that also do not understand us and are more interested in judging us and penalizing us rather than providing us with resources. And we see it in the court systems all the time. People being given diversionary programs and given just probation and things like this, and our Black and brown people not being given these opportunities as much, or even being told about these opportunities. So we may have less access to resources. There's a big disparity right there. So this young woman was being faced with so many things hitting her, and I was trying to be a role model, but it was very, very overwhelming, because we want to fix things. You know, we're used to going into the burning buildings, and we're used to trying to fix things. And I was praying, God, there's so many things that need to be worked on, and so much that's outside of her power, and so much that's outside of my power as a mentor. I'm very overwhelmed, and I don't know what to do. This is very, very frustrating to see so much suffering. We know it's out there, we see it all the time, but to see it up close and personal, how there's these double and triple binds, these different ways that people are just bound up this way and that way, again, not always through their own not always because of something that they did, or if it was because of something that they did, they may not be given the same compassion and mercy and justice and things like that as someone else. So again, I prayed and I prayed, and what God answered to me after a while was, just walk with her. Just walk with her. You don't have to fix it. That's not what I'm calling you to do. Just walk. Just walk with her. And that blessed my spirit so much, because part of what motivates me as I work in the community and try to engage, especially with young people in the community, and especially with single mothers in the community, is I try to be that friend to them that my mother didn't have. That friend, that role model, that my mom lost her mother at a young age. And I think of my mother and what she was up against, and how she did not always have the support that she needed. And it may have caused her to make mistakes that maybe she otherwise would not have made. And so I try to be a friend, a support, a mentor, a role model to some young women when God calls me to be. And so my motivation is to be that friend to them that I wish my mom had had. And so how do you do that when buildings are burning all around you, when all of these things are going on? And God blessed me with the word, just walk. Just walk with her. What she does, what they do, and what happens and all of that is not in your control. But walking with her, that's in your control. You can walk with her. And so I began walking with her, not with the intent of trying to change her outcomes. You need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. But to just walk with her. And then walking with her, I was able to ask her, I was able to identify some things and say, do you need a little help with this? For example, let's say if there's a letter that says you need to do this, 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 from some organization or agency or whatever regarding maybe a situation. And she's like, they're telling me I need to do this and this and this, and I don't understand this. I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you what I do when I'm trying to figure something out. We're going to go line by line. And every time there's something that's supposed to be done, we're going to put a checkbox by it. Okay, we're going to put a checkbox by it. So we went through that letter line by line and we put a checkbox, and it turned out to be 12 checkboxes. I didn't realize there were 12 different things in that letter that was being demanded. And so I said, see, there's 12 things that they're calling you to do, that you need to do by thus and such date. Okay. And so instead of me being overwhelmed about what she is or isn't doing, one of our favorite lines is that I say to her, are you getting your check boxes done? That's all I say is, are you getting your check boxes done? She might call and say, I'm so mad that they did this and someone did that and I want to protest this now. And I just say, oh, all of that sounds really, really important. It sounds like that would be something really great for you to work on at some point. But right now, I'm just wondering, are you getting your check boxes done? And so now she just finishes the sentence before I get started. She's like, I know, get my check boxes done. I'm like, yes, exactly. So in walking, instead of me trying to fix everything, I'm able to see things that I might be able, little practical things that I might be able to say, can I help you with this? Can I help you go through that letter that you're talking about? Can I help you figure out how to organize that? Can I help you how to, one day, I went to pick her up and she got in the car and her papers were everywhere. Papers having to do with one of her situations, and papers were everywhere. And I said, you know, this is your life we're talking about, and you got your papers everywhere. You aren't able to find what you need. I'm going to bring you something to help you so you can get your papers organized, because I don't want to see your papers in that shape again, because you can't find what you need, and you can't figure out where things are, the way that things are, you know, all over the place like that. So I brought some manila folders. I brought a little portable file, a little portable file thing she can carry with her. And I said, here, now, this is what you can do, you know, and explained it to her. Now, whatever she does or doesn't do with it, at least I know that I provided those tools to try to help her get organized. And I must say, I haven't seen that kind of a collection of her important papers again. So I assume that maybe she is working on getting them organized. So when you're walking, you have more opportunity to observe instead of trying to fix. If you're trying to hammer something and nail something and screw something, when you're hammering and nailing and screwing, boards and walls and things like that, you can't also look around and observe what's going on when you're so busy trying to fix something. But if you're just walking and observing and looking around, you can identify some things, and you might be able to ask a question, and you might be able to collaboratively sort of through those questions try to figure out like where you can fit in and how you can help. So it's just a small thing that God told me, but it's one that I am finding extremely helpful. And I think that I'm starting to find it helpful in other relationships as well. Because I am the type of person who tends to jump right away into fix it mode, into okay, what do we do? What do we need to do? So the word is walk with them. Let's think about how we can walk with our young people. How can we walk with them? How can we become a steady force that they can just kind of turn to and let us know, how we can assist them that's within our ability to assist them. We can't do everything that they might need, but if we're kind of walking with them, they can kind of learn, say, okay, when I see Sister so-and-so, I'm going to make sure I ask about this. Or when I see Sister so-and-so, I'm going to make sure I ask about that. And so that's the kind of thing that I'm starting to see happen, this back and forth, more of a back and forth. What do you know about this? Do you think you can help me with that? What do you think I should do about this? What do you think? Who should I call first? What should I be asking them? Things like that, kind of more of a back and forth. So I wanted to just share that with you. Walk with them. Walk with them. I also wanted to share with you the concept of thriving versus surviving. We are so used to surviving that oftentimes we don't get to that level of thriving. And we're so busy helping other people survive that we don't get to that point of thriving. But in order to thrive, one thing I'm discovering is we have to have a plan. We have to have a plan. And a lot of young people, even a lot of older people and mature people, don't have a plan. Recently, a young person said, they said they have a job interview in Mystic, and they live like in Lisbon. And I said, that's great. You have a job interview in Mystic, but how are you going to get to work every day? I don't know, but I just got to get this job. And my word was, yeah, but you got to have a plan, because if you can't get to the job, then that is not going to be sustainable. Okay. Sustainable is a word that we aren't used to using, through the generations, sustainable. But it's really good when we grab onto that concept of sustainability. It can help us with our decision making. Is what we're going to do, is it going to be able to sustain itself in the way that we're going to do it? So the young person found out that it's going to be really hard because they weren't even able to get to the interview on time. They were mixed up about when the interview was, and the person who was offering the interview was kind of frustrated and said, well, you'll have to see me next week. So there was kind of a little bit of a lesson there that, if you're having trouble even getting into the interview, you just might have some trouble getting to that job every day. So what is sustainable and what isn't? In order to thrive, we have to start doing sustainability. We have to start planning for sustainability. We have to start thinking about sustainability. How do we set this up in a way that we can make it most sustainable? How can we collaborate and use our resources in such a way that it will be most sustainable? Our young people might not be able to put all of that together. It might be kind of like, I just got to do this, and part of that is that developmental progression that's going on during, the younger years, and even throughout the 20s and so forth, as adults are getting beyond the teen years and all of the brain development that happens during the late teens and the early 20s. So, so we need to be able to identify what's needed in order to thrive. We need to be able to help young people identify what's needed in order to thrive, if they'll let us. We can only do what they'll let us do, so that we can help the young person to set their goals, not our goals, but we can help talk that through with them. Well, in order to be able to do this and such, what do you think you're going to need to do first? Okay, well, what's going to happen if this or that? Do you think there's something you need to do before you do that step? Things like that. So just thinking about sustainability, that's just barely surviving versus thriving. Are we just trying to have a temporary solution to something? Or are we trying to move beyond just a quick fix, temporary? And are we trying to come up with something that's going to be more sustainable and more long-term, and that's going to help us to thrive successfully? And these are questions not only for the young people, but these are questions for ourselves as well. I know a lot of my friends are starting to think differently about investing and about preparing for retirement. And a lot of us, have been reading books for a while, trying to figure out how can we make those decisions more sustainable. So books like The Richest Man in Babylon, that's one that I haven't met a person yet who has read it and didn't actually get an awful lot out of it. The Richest Man in Babylon, or The Millionaire Next Door, which completely flips the stereotypes that we have about sustainable people. Financially sustainable people are not the stereotype that we think they are. They don't wear big fancy watches and things like that. Old school sustainable people, they buy a $30 watch from Sears, and they might live in a modest house, and you might not ever know what their resources are oftentimes. That's what that book talks about. Whereas your new money rich people who just started, becoming prosperous, they may want to show all the bling bling and, impress everybody and maybe burn their resources very quickly. So books like The Millionaire Next Door, there's so many. The work of Dave Ramsey, and his snowball method of getting out of debt. Now that's a sustainable move. His snowball method helps you to figure out how to get out of debt and how to sustain that. So we need to be working on that within ourselves. What does sustainability mean? And we need to help our young people to be thinking about that. Okay. There's so much more that I could say, but I'm going to not try to take up too much time. Let me see, what would I like to end with? I think I'll just kind of end there. I'm always thinking about resources. Where are the resources? How can we help young people think about resources and make good use of resources, not burn out their resources? And again, planning. Planning is everything. And for planning, one of the most important things for planning is a journal. I once preached a sermon, and I'm going to put the link to it in a chat. I once preached a sermon on vision, goals, plans, believe, about how do we get focused, and how do we start developing plans? Everybody's talking about self-care right now. And I believe in self-care. You know, who doesn't like to get their nails done? Who doesn't like to get their hair done? But the kind of self-care that I like to think about and that I like to talk to young people about is the kind of self-care that will keep you sustainable. So things like thinking about buying a home rather than renting a home, that will keep you more sustainable, because after 30 years of paying a mortgage, instead of making someone else richer after 30 years, you get to sell your investment and get that money back, or maybe even in less time than that, depending on you know how you work it. So rather than being a person who in 30 years pays someone $500,000 over the course of that 30 years and makes them richer, how about being that person who is able to sell their asset for, you know, $500,000? I wish, but, you know, even for $100,000 or $200,000 or whatever, that's a great bit more. That is huge compared to what you get after you rent for 50 years. And so then there's a lot that can be done with that money. So again, thinking about those kinds of things, that's what self-care is to me. Self-care is thinking about how to gradually try to change your diet so that you can keep your body healthier, how to try to find ways to get in exercise so that you'll be healthier. That adds to your sustainability and keeps your costs down during your older years, keeps your healthcare costs down during your older years if you try to take better care of yourself. So the young people laugh at me, you know, what kind of smoothie is that? You know, and what is that you're eating now? You know, but then next thing I know, I see them ordering things like a veggie pizza, you know, instead of the pizza with all the meat, you know, or them asking for me to make them a red smoothie. I have the green smoothie. Maybe they want to see if I can get creative and make them a red smoothie, because that's more like the red pop and things like that maybe they drink. So there's things that are much deeper than our nails and our hair that will make us more sustainable. So all of that has to do with thriving as well. And how can we walk with our young people and use the opportunity to kind of get these principles of sustainability in while we're walking with them. And it may look like they're not listening, but sometimes they'll show you that those seeds are getting planted. You know, you might fall out with them, you might fall back in with them, you may fall out again and then fall back in. But when you fall back in, you might find out that there's a seed there that you thought that they threw away. And you find out, oh my goodness, I'm seeing a little seedling growing that I planted the last time we fell out, you know, or whatever. So again, I hope these ideas are helpful, and it's just a starting point. I think there's going to be a Q&A right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, if you have
Minister Short, am I correct, right? I think I have that in my notes that we're going to have a Q&A. So I'm going to stop there. There's so much more that I could say. Oh, and I'm going to put the link to, is it okay for me to put the link to that sermon on visions and goals and how to start using a journal to do that? As well as a link to my inspirational page. There's no financial benefit to me for my page with my videos, my inspirational videos. Any videos I'm ever involved with, there's no financial gain. I don't even know how to do that monetization and all of that. And I'm not really interested in that. I'm just interested in helping to inspire people. So, Minister Short, may I put those 2 links in the chat?
Dr. Dunlap, please do. Thank you.
Okay. So, the first would be the video that, talks about the importance of journal keeping and how you develop your goals from a spiritual perspective, but also from a practical perspective. And the other will be an inspirational page that has a variety of things like scriptures for trying to get through school, just a wide variety of inspirational resources. Even a video that my mom made for me when I asked her, a 10-minute video that we did when I asked her, and my mom passed in December 2018, but I asked her, Mom, what would you say to yourself now to your 25-year-old self? If you had an opportunity to talk to your 25-year-old self, what would you say to her? That 25-year-old self with 3 young children, trying to work all the time, stressed out, trying to make sure your children are taken care of, trying to make ends meet, trying to do all of these things. What would you say to your 25-year-old self? I just really wanted to know. And what she had to say, I believe, would be a great blessing to any young mother, or any young caregiver, or maybe any caregiver taking care of children. So that would be on the inspirational page as well. But there's a link to a specific video, and then there's a link to the page itself. So I just put that into the chat. And now I believe we're going to open up for a few minutes of questions and answers. I don't know what the ending time is today, because I know we were a little bit behind schedule. I think the preliminary things went a little longer than maybe planned on. So the organizers, Minister Short, they and Joanne Miller, they can let me know when we're going to end the discussion. But let's go ahead and get started. So do we have questions and answers? And what are some of your thoughts about what I've said about walking with young people and kind of, walking and seeing where we fit instead of trying to make them fit into where we are. The things that I sort of outlined, what are your thoughts about that, and what questions do you have? Okay, thank you.
If you have a question right now, you can raise your hand.
Chevelle has her hand raised. I'm not sure.
And you probably can also write your question in the chat if you're more comfortable doing that as well. Okay, who has their hand up? I didn't. Oh,
I just want to say hello to everybody, but I got to go. Bye.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.
I don't even see who this is.
Alicia Pollard.
Oh, hi, Alicia.
Yeah.
Bye, Alicia. I don't know if she left yet, but hi, Alicia.
Hello, I'm gone.
Hi, so nice to have you here. I was afraid to look at the participant list. God bless you.
God bless y'all. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, you've got Chevelle and Dr. Dunlap.
Okay, Chevelle.
Dr. Dunlap, my name is Chevelle Savage, and I am a transplant from Virginia. My spouse got a job at Connecticut College 4 years ago, and so that's how I ended up here. And I've heard so many great things about you, and I'm so honored to be a part of this conversation. One thing that Kia Barrett can attest to, because I know her professionally as well as she's a good friend, is that representation is so important. And when you talked about that, that just landed so deeply with me. And, you know, what And the fact that you said that, what would your younger self say to your current self, right? What does that look like? Like, if in all of your great work that you have done, like if you had to look back on your younger self, what would you say to your current self? Or what would your current self say to your younger self based on all of the things that you've learned, how you've navigated, how you have progressed, how you are just showing up as just a wonderful mentor, wonderful part of this community? What would you say? What would you say, knowing that representation is important?
First of all, Chevelle, thank you for those kind words, and I hope I, can live up to all of that. So thank you so very much. Yes, representation is very important, and that's why we need diversity in so many areas. And until we get there, we just got to do the best we can. What would I say to my younger self? Recently, I reached out to someone who I really admire in this community. I'm not going to say who they are, but I called for wisdom. And I said, this is the situation and I'm not sure what to do. And, I feel like I should do this, but, I don't know if that would be a wrong move. And actually, it was a Black male in our community. And he said, Michelle, how long have you been a Black woman? And I said, my whole life. And he said, you've been a Black woman your whole life. Have your instincts ever steered you wrong? And I said, no. And he said, well, then go with your instincts. If you're having hesitations, there's a reason that you're having hesitations. No matter what logical explanations are being given to you, you're having hesitations for a reason. So follow your instincts. You're a Black woman. You have those instincts have carried you this far in your life. And so what I would say to my younger self, loud and clear, is follow your instincts. I wish I had that really, really, really deep in my spirit. There's a lot of mistakes that I would not have made if I had learned to really, really trust myself. And even in my mature age, even now, I still doubt myself a lot. I would say, trust yourself, trust your instincts. I wish I had that message from a very, very young age. Trust that's in your gut, that's happening for a reason, So that's the number one thing. And I want to say that to you, Chevelle, and I want to say that to everyone on the chat who, again, I still don't know who you are, and I don't want to know who you are until at the end of the meeting, like when we're about to end, like 2 minutes, like when we're 2 minutes from ending, then I'll look at the participant list, okay? But until then, I just want to tell everyone out there, no matter what your age is, and I'm telling it to myself, that we've been Black our whole lives, and our ancestors, at least some of our ancestors were Black, so probably the vast majority of our ancestors were Black, and they knew how to survive, from their instincts and their ancestors and so on, all the way down to us. We know how to survive, and it's through those instincts that have been passed down to us and that have been honed and groomed through our everyday experiences. Please, I'm telling us all, trust our instincts. And I wish that is something that had been really, really instilled in me at a young age and constantly reinforced. So let's reinforce that in our young people. Let's reinforce that in ourselves. That would be the number one thing, Chevelle. I hope that's helpful.
You know what, Dr. Dunlap, it is helpful. And you have no idea. The last couple of weeks have been hard for me. And it's just for you to say that, just pretty much brings it all the way home. And I'm in tears. and I have an issue with navigating public displays of affection, of emotion, not affection, emotion. But I appreciate you for sharing that, and thank you for taking my call.
Oh, thank you, and thank you. I thank God for giving me words that obviously have met some need for you, and hopefully for someone else. So thank you. And that had to be dealt with. So I went to my resources first. I went to like the affirmative action office. I went to my supervisor. And so first I went to my supervisor, then the supervisor and I went to the affirmative action office. Then we brainstormed, what should we do? How should we handle this? We decided we were going to have a meeting with the head of that. So I think one of the first things is to utilize your resource. If you get the sense that addressing it head on is going to make matters worse, because you can try addressing it head on, but if you get the sense that that's not going to be helpful, I would say make a list of who your possible resources are and who you're going to go to first. I believe in writing things down. I am quite a journaler, and I try to write and strategize and think about, okay, how should I approach this and what my strategy is going to be. Anyway, I'm all about make a plan, make a plan, make a plan, make a plan. Okay. And that's what that sermon is about. How do you go about making a plan? How do you go about getting a vision? It's gotten to the point now where whatever I'm doing, whatever I need, God just drops the vision, just gives me the vision on what to do, and gives me like these really, really great ideas on what to do. So it's almost like sometimes he skips the part where I gotta, brainstorm, and sometimes poof, he just puts the vision there, and then I gotta write it down, and I gotta, write the different parts of it. But we want to practice that. We want to practice getting those visions from our higher power. For me, it's Father, Mother, God, Son, and Holy Ghost. But for I respect diversity of faith-based, perspectives. And so for someone else, it might be praying to Allah, or to a variety of other possible higher powers. So going to your higher power and asking them to impart to you their visions for you, and you making sure that you write those down. And in the sermon, I give a scriptural background for that, like from Habakkuk and so forth. There's a lot of scripture to back that up. Why you can do that and how that will work in your favor. So I hope that was helpful. Start with your resources, okay, and then take it from there.
If we have time for one more question, I think is one more in.
No, there's I'm seeing a whole bunch of questions in the chat. Let's see. So which one? I would have to ask you all to pick what question you want me to go with. Can the facilitators tell me?
Yes, it's Kia.
I mean, did maybe I'm looking at the chat wrong?
Well, some of them are like just comments, but I do see one, and I'm not sure if this is related to your previous answer, but it says, is there a difference with how we should walk? No, this is a new question. How we should walk with adults versus the younger population. So to your point of mentorship, do you have advice on mentoring young adults, seasoned women?
Wow, that's a really good question. And the truth is, I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure it out. The young person I used as an example is probably like around 33, 34 years old. But I've had the opportunity to, be connected to a lot of young people of a lot of different ages. And a lot of times it's things like God hasn't really spoken to me for them like he has for the person I used as an example, where I was really, really struggling. But for me, with the young people, oftentimes it's something like, let's go grab a bite to eat. You know, young folks love to eat. You know, they love to go out and grab a bite to eat or go for ice cream. You know, and while you're doing that, you know, you're riding, you're riding in a car. You know, you're talking while you're getting there. You're talking while you're there. You're talking on the way back. You know, you're exploring, you know, conversation and getting to know one another. So sometimes what I do, there's a couple of young people that maybe I take them out to dinner after church every Sunday. You know, I've done things like that for a period of time. Maybe every Sunday, there was a young person, maybe around 12. I would take him out for dinner after church to give his mom a break, because, you know, he was struggling with a lot of things, and it just seemed like she just wasn't getting any relief from it. And I said, hey, why don't I take him out for dinner on Sundays? And that'll give you a break, and it'll give him a chance to connect with someone else, you know, and maybe I can brainstorm with him on maybe different ways he can resolve some of his issues. So things like that, going out for ice cream or going to grab a bite to eat somewhere that's not very, you know, expensive, if you're going to be trying to maintain that, if you want to make it sustainable over a period of time, not trying to force a relationship, but just hanging out and see, you know, see where it goes, see how they connect with you and so forth. So I hope that was helpful. I believe that was my dear friend Donna Medina who asked that question. I'm seeing a lot of people, Tara Hall, a lot of people on here in the chat who I know. I haven't looked at the participant list. I'm going to look in a minute. But
Dr. Dunlap, Miss Judy here has been waiting for a while.
Oh, another question? Okay.
This will be our final question. Judy, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah. Oh, Judy.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a graduate. And
oh, wow.
I received an invitation to this meeting from the American Association of University Women. And I don't know if any other people from our organization are on here or not. I know Gay Clarkson was on initially. I didn't see her again.
Okay.
I have a question for you wonderful Black people. From the way you're talking, do you think about this may sound, I'm not prejudiced. I have a lot of Black friends. But do you think about your Blackness from morning to night? From the conversation now, it almost seems like you do. But I hope that it's partly because of this conversation that we're hearing so much about it.
Okay, so would anyone like to, I think she addressed that to the whole group. So if anyone would like to come forward to answer, feel welcome. Otherwise, I would be happy to take it myself. Chevelle, I see Chevelle's
Listen,
hand
yes,
up.
Dr. Dunlap, I would love to have that conversation.
Please go right ahead.
Yes, Miss Judy. I always think about my Blackness because that's a part of who I am. That is part of my intersectional identity. Like I cannot not think about my Blackness because when I go outside, when I navigate the different worlds in which I'm a part of, academic, personal, professional, I always think about my Blackness. You know why? Because I don't have a choice to not think about my Blackness.
But I don't think about my whiteness.
Well, that's privilege, Miss Judy.
Yes.
Can I just jump in as well, Chevelle? My name
is please.
Yes, I think, Ms. Judy, you also have to understand that it's not for you to understand our experiences. It's for you to hear our experiences and learn from what we are saying. We can't live life as you did, even if we were the same age. I could never have lived life as you did. So my Blackness does inform a lot of how I go into work. Black culture is steeped in my religion, my family values. There's a lot of entertainment. There's so much to my culture that is tied up in me, and even how I practice when I go to work. You know, I take these things with me, and it's also how the world sees me. So I have to walk through this life as a Black woman. And like I said, I just want to reiterate, it's not for you to compare and say, well, I didn't do it. You need to just be here to listen and understand, or try to understand what our experiences are. Thank you.
And can I just jump right, like piggyback on you, just because first of all, I love the fact that you brought that in. The fact that I actually identified Miss Judy as Miss Judy is a cultural standpoint when it comes to my Blackness.
It is.
I need y'all to understand that, right? I was raised that you have, if there is an elder or there is someone who you feel is a mentor, you put a handle on that name. And so that is entrenched in my Blackness. And I will not apologize for that, because I'm a therapist, right? And so at the end of the day, anybody who is 30 years or younger, because that's the age of my son, needs to address me as Miss Chevelle, because my son don't call me mama. Don't call me Miss, he don't call me Chevelle, he calls me mom. So anybody outside of that component, you need to address me as Miss Chevelle if you're younger than that. If you're 31, call me Chevelle, because that's the thing. But you know, that's part of just like what we were talking about, like enrich and entrenched in our Blackness, in our lived experiences, because that's what culture is, right? But I appreciate you.
Michelle, do you agree with these people? Do you feel the same way?
I agree 110%. And if you would like to learn more from my voice, from my experience, I would welcome you to purchase my latest book, Retail Racism, Shopping While Black and Brown in America. And I trust you will have a much better understanding. So many wonderful things have been said that you should find helpful already. But if you want to really dig in, you might start with that book, and it has many resources in it that you can even go even further down the rabbit hole, if you will, if you would like to. Chevelle, I saw you raising your hand again. Did you want to say something else? And I saw Reverend Clark.
Yeah. No. I think my hand was raised initially. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm not good with the Zoom situation. So.
Okay. So I'm going to, Dr. Dunlap, I'm going to pass it back to Wanda. What I think I'm also going to do is that once we stop recording, I'm going to set it back up so everyone can see everyone, and we can have some after meeting networking and chatting. But I'm going to kick it back over to Vice President Short to say thank you to our guest speaker.
So thank you all. Reverend Clark, I just want to know, Reverend Clark, do you want to say anything before I speak?
Thank you for the privilege, and to be very short. To Miss Judy, I celebrated my 81st birthday 3 weeks ago. Born and reared in Charleston, South Carolina, the deep South during Jim Crow. And to ask about my Blackness, it never goes away. And you don't even get a break, because if I don't think about it, society keeps reminding me that I am Black.
Amen.
Too bad.
And if I can just like jump in, Reverend Clark is a fellow New London Rotarian, and she has been like an icon as well as a mentor in absentia. She ain't been like my real mentor, but she's been a mentor in absentia, and I love her. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
She's mine too, just so you know. So watch it, Chevelle.
Let's all give Dr. Michelle Dunlap a round of applause for speaking with us today.
Thank you. To God be the glory. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord.
Dr. Dunlap, we thank you for the many pearls of wisdom that you dropped upon us today. We have our walking orders to walk with the youth, to not only survive, but strive for sustainability, for self-care, for writing down the vision. And as I was listening to you, I had to stop a tear from coming myself. I can't even talk about it, a tear come myself, because I am a person who learned from my mother many pearls of wisdom, and I live by them day by day. And so what you have given me today, you give me something to add to my foremothers list. So I appreciate you, and I think everyone listening today appreciate you. Sometimes when a pastor preach, he says things like, you won't leave here the same way that you came. And I truly believe that today, that every woman that's here will not leave here. They'll have something they would incorporate into their organization. And not only the women that are here today, but they're going to share the story. So there are going to be multiple, there are going to be so many women that's going to be affected by this time that we are sharing today. So again, thank you. Thank you. Now we're going to, and I also want to again thank Sir Optimus, Sister Kathy, and Sister Beatrice for being here today. Now, Kia, if you allow me to share the screen, I want to put up our NCNW pledge. Let me know when you're ready, Kia, for me to share.
You should be good to go.
Okay, thank you very much. So as we leave tonight, we will forever be united because of this day. And so we, on behalf of NCNW New London, we thank you for coming, and we hope you have a blessed and peaceful night. I will read NCNW pledge, and you can please read along with me. It is our pledge to make a lasting contribution to all
that is finest and best in America,
to cherish and enrich her heritage of freedom and progress by working for the integration of all her people, regardless of race, creed, or national origin, into her spiritual, social, civic, and economic life, and thus aid her to achieve the glorious destiny of a true and unfettered democracy. Have a wonderful evening, ladies, my dear sisters. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Dr. Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you. Feel free to unmute yourselves, chat with each other, say thank you out loud to Dr. Dunlap.
Thank you all. Thank you. Much love to everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Dunlap.
Much love. Much love. I love
Thank you
you
so
all.
much.
Love you all.
Love you.
Loved it.
All right, good night, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
It's
Wanda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy and Beatrice from Steps.
No problem.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.